Thank you, Tilly. So, trust. We've got a story in two parts for you today. In the first part, we'll very briefly summarize why trust matters to brands. Why should you care about trust? What are the benefits of earning consumers' trust? And what are the unpalatable consequences of failing to develop and hold on to that trust? And in the second part, we'll share our thoughts on how brands can successfully cultivate and maintain that all-important trust over the long term. And I'll finish with a case study about bagels, so make sure you stick around for that.
So why should we all care about trust? It doesn't matter what industry you're in, positive consumer relationships built on trust will always be vital to a brand's success. Consumer trust directly impacts a brand's bottom line. We see it in consumer research all the time that when trust is established and retained, customers are more likely to make repeat purchases, close themselves off to the competition, recommend the brand to others, and be less sensitive to price changes. There are, of course, industries where trust is more or less important. However, if a consumer can't trust us to deliver on what we say we will, then they are very unlikely to come back.
So do I trust that Strava is the best sports tracking app? I do. Have I ever considered other apps? I haven't. Do I tell everyone that isn't on Strava that they should be? I do. Did I happily agree to pay for Strava when they said they couldn't offer the full service for free anymore? I did, even though I'm notoriously tight. Do I let my subscription auto-renew every year? I do. I trust Strava, and it means I make repeat purchases. It means I've closed myself off to the competition. It means I recommend, and that I wasn't bothered about the paywall.
I don't think anyone will disagree that trust is hugely important, and the consequences of a lack of consumer faith are not good at all. Where trust is low, we're talking about the opposite of all the good stuff we've just been mentioning. Infrequent purchases, consideration of the competition, an absence of recommendations, potentially finding yourself in a price war, and difficulty overcoming any setbacks your brand. Briefly hear from Georgia about the importance of trust for the AA.
Thank you. So coming from an organisation that's been referred to as the fourth emergency service, it should be really clear why trust is so important at the AA. We've been around since 1905, and since then we've always been on the side of drivers, supporting them and anticipating their needs. Since 1905, we've evolved, innovated and supported as the world of driving has changed and continues to change. This desire to continuously build trust with our customers is reflected in our latest brand positioning that's always ahead, which is all centered around giving drivers confidence now and for the future.
Thanks, Georgia. And if you have tuned in because you're a fan of Georgia, don't worry, she will return. She's got plenty more to say on trust. So the good news is we can agree on how vital trust is for commercial success. The bad news is that truly fostering trust and holding on to it requires a brand to build 5 pillars of trust. Now, you might argue that there are other pillars, more than 5, but these are the 5 that we think are crucial. So we'll take each in turn, explaining what they are and why they matter. So pillar number 1 is consistent delivery. Reliability across quality, value, service, and experience leads to a natural, inevitable building of trust. If you tick all the key boxes, if you can be relied upon to meet your customers' primary needs, then you've proved you're worth choosing and spending with. So we've got a question for you, the audience, now. When you think about consistent delivery, which brands come to mind? If you type your answers in the chat, Tilly will pull a few out for us. I mean, I'd be shocked, Tilly, if John Lewis hasn't already appeared in the chat.
M&S.
M&S, yeah.
Yeah.
Any others?
Not yet, no.
Well, maybe it's difficult.
Oh, hang on. First Direct.
First direct, yeah, okay. I think given the lack of brands in the chat, we can probably suggest that consistent delivery, that sort of reliability, is actually quite challenging for brands.
And for us, a lot of brands that do deliver consistently, look at the little things, and concentrate on the things that really matter to consumers. And sometimes, it's not just the big things; it's the little things as well. And we work with the supermarket's clothing team, and in clothing, delivering consistently isn't just a case of getting the clothing itself right, but also how is it presented in store, whether the store is clean and reflective of the clothing, and the type of packaging it turns up in that really matter and help build trust in the brand. Looking after these little things and delivering on them consistently makes a difference. We talk a lot in marketing about consistency in our branding, but consistently giving people quality is a prime way of building trust and shows consumers that we care.
And still on delivering consistently, some brands benefit from not only that consistent delivery across quality, value, service, and experience in any one single shopping experience, but also from really consistent delivery over time. The question is, can I trust you to deliver tomorrow just as you did years ago? Can I trust that you haven't raised your prices but reduced your quality? Can I trust you haven't kept prices the same but made your products smaller? In consumer research and across all categories, how many times have we heard those sorts of complaints about a lack of consistency? But some brands don't face that sort of criticism. They don't lose consumers' trust in that way. And Levi's is a great example of a brand that's innovated over the years, but has always been trusted to deliver consistently. A pair of 501s is every bit as good today as it would have been in years gone by.
And for the AA, we know that people who have broken down are more likely to renew their cover. Now, it's probably clear that they've seen the value in having breakdown cover, but it's important to note that they actually choose to renew their cover with us at the AA as opposed to going to a competitor. We talk a lot around the business about fixing the customer first before we fix the car. Now, obviously, our car mechanics are incredibly skilled at fixing cars. It's what they do. But the real added value is consistently being there to support our customers when they need us the most. And that's all about delivering consistently at the AA.
Okay, so pillar number 2, transparency, honesty, and accountability. Relationships are so often built on communication, and so brands that are transparent about their processes, their pricing, and their decision-making tend to foster greater trust. Brands that own up to their mistakes and make genuine efforts to fix them are more likely to retain trust. Indeed, being trusted and enjoying a good reputation isn't dependent on never having made any mistakes, but more about how you handle a mistake or even a crisis. It's about how you respond to negative feedback that's crucial. When something goes wrong, a brand should be upfront about it, apologize meaningfully, and take steps to make amends. Honesty in difficult situations helps create and retain trust. So back in 2016, you might recall that Samsung had a problem with the Galaxy Note 7's batteries. The problem was that they were catching fire. What did Samsung do? They issued a full recall, offered refunds or replacements, conducted an extensive investigation to determine the cause of the fires, and implemented a new 8-point battery safety check to ensure it wouldn't happen again. And that was enough to hold on to consumer trust, despite the obvious seriousness of the problem. And actually, the next Galaxy model sold really well. And today, I don't think anybody links Samsung phones and fires.
I'm sure many of us remember the horse meat scandal of 2013. It seems a very long time ago now. At the time, it felt like Tesco wouldn't survive. Their YouGov brand index scores dipped to an all-time low, but you wouldn't know looking at them now. They tightened up their supply chains, sourced British meat, and were very transparent with consumers on how they were going to improve to allow them to win back that trust. A few years later, I was working for a company which had its own PR challenge, and it really showed that trust can be lost in a second, but can take a huge amount of time to be really built if you aren't prepared to be transparent and honest with consumers. The interesting thing is that the bigger your brand and the more trusted you are, the bigger the potential fall if something goes wrong and you're not transparent and honest about it. I was just reading this morning about the class action lawsuit in the US against several dark chocolate manufacturers due to the presence of heavy metals in the chocolate. I don't know whether anybody's read about it. I'll let you read about what Lindt Chocolate have been saying in their defense, but anyone reading about it will, I'm sure, not be feeling the same level of trust they once did in the brand, and that's all because of their lack of transparency.
Pillar 3 is strong customer service. Brands that people trust tend to be those brands that offer good advice, are responsive, and provide empathetic support. Where interactions that we have with them are quick, efficient, and meaningful, it builds confidence that the brand genuinely values its customers. American Express is renowned for its exceptional customer service, for its people being helpful, courteous, and proactive in resolving issues. And I rang Amex once, years and years ago, and I have absolutely no memory of the problem that I called about. But I do remember how impressed I was about the level of service Amex provided. I felt listened to, I felt understood, and I felt confident. I trusted that they'd help me, and they did.
Latest report from the Institute for Customer Service back in July of this year showed that customer satisfaction in the UK is at its lowest level in several years. They say that as financial pressures intensify, some brands are taking an increasingly narrow transactional approach to measuring customer satisfaction. Now, that sounds dangerous to me. And when you look at the highest performing brands in their ranking, they are the brands that recognise that customer service is a key business asset and driver of long-term loyalty. I'd recommend going to take a look at the list on the Institute of Customer Services website when you get the seconds, because it's interesting to see who's at the top and who's at the bottom of their ranking.
Now, I know that the purpose of this webinar is about ways to build trust with the aim of boosting a brand's success. But fundamentally, being customer-centric is just the right thing to do for everyone involved. There's a continued focus and effort on building a truly customer-centric culture at the AA. Whilst I won't talk too much about the ways we measure trust, as I know there's a whole other webinar in the series on that, I do just want to share a highlight from our customer experience team. Every Friday, one of my favorite colleagues from the CX team shares a Feel Good Friday email, and it highlights the key pieces of customer feedback from the week. It really celebrates the staff who have delivered great service and just reinforces how important it is to go above and beyond for our customers. Of course, we take action on the less good stuff too, but it's really important to acknowledge and celebrate the many times that we do get it right.
Trust pillar number 4 is social proof and reviews. People tend to trust what others say about a brand, and we maybe trust what others say more than what the brand says about itself. So encouraging positive, genuine customer reviews and showcasing testimonials helps build credibility. So Uni, the outdoor pizza oven company, has gone from strength to strength since the pandemic and enjoys a lively community of pizza enthusiasts who often go out of their way to praise the products and encourage others to buy them. Indeed, if you go on Trustpilot, you'll find that Uni has a score of 4.7. And a summer or two ago, here in the Box Clever office, we had 2 committed outdoor cooks who were absolutely thrilled with their Unis, and they were more than happy to tell you all about them, whether you wanted them to or not. Did I end up buying an Uni? I didn't. I don't need to eat more pizza than I eat already, but I do trust Dean and Andy's opinions on anything related to cooking, and so I trust the Uni brand as a consequence.
Reviews come up time and time again in research. I'm sure we've all heard about them in the research we've conducted. And whilst this may sound like a simple tool to develop trust, it isn't as easy as it sounds. The amount, the position of them on a website, the brand's response or lack of, all influence how these reviews are perceived by consumers. With the emergence of AI and those little bots, we couldn't not mention AI today, could we? I'm interested to see what the future holds when it comes to consumers' trust in reviews and their role in building and maintaining trust in a brand going forwards. Social proof isn't just about reviews, it's also about the conversations we hear and read. Influencer strategy is a whole different webinar, but they do have an important role to play in building or destroying trust. I've done a lot of research in the beauty space over the last 10 years, and Instagram and TikTok are becoming the dominant engine of growth for new independent brands. And those brands that have also been gobbled up by bigger brands. And their aim is to use these platforms to build trust in the brand through authentic, real, relatable content. CeraVe is a prime example of a brand that has succeeded in driving social proof by working with influencer experts that consumers trust in.
So we've reached the last pillar, and it's about engaging with feedback. Listening to customers demonstrates a brand cares about the people it sells to. Now, obviously, we would champion this pillar, wouldn't we? Because we're in the business of connecting you with your consumers. But you can trust us that it's definitely true. And I promised you a case study about bagels, didn't I? And here it is. You'll remember that back in 2013, the New York Bakery Company launched pre-sliced bagels, but quickly reversed the decision after customer complaints. Consumers felt pre-sliced bagels were less fresh and failed to offer the same experience as slicing the bagels themselves. The company quickly responded to that feedback. They opted to return to selling unsliced bagels, and they told their customers that they'd listened to the feedback and that they heard them. We sliced it, you didn't like it, so we ain't slicing nothing no more, appeared on their packaging and in their comms. I think it's more supposed to be, we ain't slicing nothing no more. I'm walking here. Anyway, forget that. They recognized that customer feedback was too important to ignore.
So that's our 5 pillars of trust. We'll finish the webinar with a question for you, a challenge for you all. We didn't get many responses up front, so let's see if you've got any thoughts now. How easy or difficult is it to fulfill these 5 pillars? Can you think of any brands in your life that delivers against 4 or maybe even all 5? And just to remind you, they are delivers consistently, transparent, honest, and accountable, excellent customer service, enjoys good social proof, and engages well with customer feedback. Post in the chat if you think you do. And again, Tilly will shout some out if anybody has any thoughts.
Just to let you know, guys, as well, we have had a few brands over since the last question, them being Emirates, Children's Salon, and Dyson.
Lovely.
Riverford Organic Veg Boxes, Patagonia.
I can't believe a Patagonia case study didn't come up in this. There must have been one. There must be one on the cutting room floor, Hannah, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
the
look, Tilly,
veg box is an interesting one, isn't it? Because, you know, and they're not the only ones, but you know, these brands also rely on working with suppliers that they can trust to deliver. You know, if they've got delivery companies who let them down, then you know it impacts the brand as well as the delivery company.
And
More,
we've
Tilly?
got some questions coming through as well to you, if you are happy to start answering those. So first one I have over is, do you think it is easier to build trust as a service brand than a product brand?
I take that.
Okay.
Easier? I don't think it's necessarily easier for a service brand than a product. I think it's about, those little things as we go along the customer journey. And those can go wrong whether you're providing a service or a product. I suppose, it depends what industry we're talking about. Sometimes that journey is quite complex, sometimes it isn't, sometimes expectations of trust are extremely high.
You do have the opportunity though, don't you, Hannah, to establish a genuine and sort of human connection.
Yeah.
Well, as you say, the expectations are high and it can go wrong, but you do have an opportunity to make your brand and what you offer people feel human, whereas I guess products rely on the product until something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And I think probably from the AA's perspective, right? Like, as you know, a bit more of a service brand, you do have that sort of opportunity to sort of, you come in to rescue someone who's broken down, probably having the worst day of the month, and all those sorts of things. But also, if that doesn't go right, that trust is probably destroyed a lot quicker. So I think it's probably like the highs and the lows, but also it depends on what product. If you've got an FMCG product where sort of you're buying from that category quite quickly, quite frequently, then you have more moments to build that trust. Whereas at the AA, like, in a weird sort of way, I hope that no one breaks down this year. So we hope that you don't have to interact with the brand. But actually, when we have that one occasion a year that we are there for you when you need us, we have to get it right in that very moment. So I think it's an interesting question, definitely.
Yeah, and I think for service brands, we're relying on humans, aren't we, a lot of the time? And as we know, humans aren't perfect, so it's can be a tricky one.
Thank you, guys. I've got another question specifically for you, Georgia. Which of these principles resonates with you most at the AA?
So naturally, I've got to say all of them. All 5 are very important, of course. And it is true, we can see sort of different parts that come through quite strongly. I think for us, the deliver consistently is really important. Now, as I spoke about in terms of the fact we don't have that many interactions, but also word of mouth is really powerful in the category. So actually, if we're consistently delivering good service, then the word of mouth is going to spread. But also that strong customer service really comes through as something that is super important there. Actually, when things go less well, then that transparency, honesty, accountability, owning it, and sort of really sort of trying to repair things with the customer is all going to be very important there. So that's a really sitting on the fence answer, and just all of them. But yeah, definitely that deliver consistently and strong customer service really speak to the AA.
Thank you. That's great. And then a question I have here is, which of these 5 pillars do you think is most crucial for building lasting trust?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it's one being asked by a lot of our clients at the moment. And it really depends on the market you're in, the industry the brand plays in. We've been running quite a few studies, looking at what the drivers of trust are, and for the category that brand plays in, and really picking apart kind of the elements, these because even these 5 pillars, there's little things that play into all of those 5, and really understanding, specifically for the market you're in, what's actually driving trust. And you can use existing data to do that. You might have brand tracking data that already covers trust that you can look at, or running a separate new study. But yeah, I think the real answer to that question is that it depends.
Perfect. And then Georgia, that everyone is after you today. One for you. How do you effectively measure trust at the AA?
Oh, see, that's a sneaky question, because there's a whole other webinar that I'm not part of, but we'll answer your questions there. I think obviously we measure it in our brand and market tracker. It's all very well and good to measure it, but it's also what you do with that. So we treat it as one of our key performance metrics. You know, it's something that we really value. We look at in depth each time to understand how sort of trust is panning out. And also in the CX customer surveys, we have lots of surveys that we reach out to customers on. It's something that we measure there as well, and similarly report on that monthly. So I think it's how you measure it is obviously really important, but what you do with it on the back end is also arguably more important there too.
Oh, that's great. I think that might be all of our questions for today. If any do come to mind after the webinar's finished, and please do get in touch with us. We'd be happy to pick those up off screen as well. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Rich, Hannah, and to Georgia for taking the time to talk us through this today. I particularly loved your Friday feel good email, Georgia. Hannah, some wonderful current examples, and Rich, your New York impression was fantastic.
It sounded so much better in my head.
We hope everyone's enjoyed today, and as we say, if you have any questions, please do get in touch, or you want to follow up with any of us, we're always happy to hear from you. So we look forward to welcoming you next Wednesday at 12 o'clock for our second session with Tom C and Tom D, double Tom. Do let us know if you'd like to attend. If you haven't already signed up, again, get in touch with me. I'm always happy to hear from you and help wherever I can. So thank you, guys.